Boom. Right in the kisser. Ooh, look, I'm bald today. Yeah, there we go. Turn off the glare. All right, there, I did it. I think I sunburned my head yesterday. I was helping my son move some furniture into his newly acquired home with his wife and with his newly acquired wife. And it was a little sunny out. I may have burned the top of the old dome. Wasn't being as careful as I probably should have been. But anyway, everybody in this house, it's 12:30. Everybody's still in bed except me and my mom, my 90-year-old mother. She's up and around, but Shelly's crashed out. My daughter, college kids, sleep all day, party all night. Except without the partying. She just stays up all night. Okay. Well, this is a last second live stream. It is July 2nd. We're 2 days away from the fireworks of the 4th of July, where we celebrate the greatness and the independence of this great country. Let's see who has joined us here. I didn't know what to expect. Is anybody going to watch the 4th of July? Are you guys out barbecuing? But I thought, you know what, the heck with it. I'm doing it. And I was going to do one yesterday, but ended up, like I said, helping my son move in. And so I'm doing what I was going to do yesterday. I'm doing it today because what the heck. So anyway, here I am with my Oregon State Beaver shirt on. And let's see here. Leg kick was the first one in the house. Leg kick is here because leg kick is almost always here. So we appreciate that, leg kick. He's first and second, too. He's calling it, and he's calling out everybody 3 in a row, calling people slackers for not showing up on time. Kevin Thomas is here. Good afternoon, Aaron. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Bill Maxwell is here. Is that Revans, Saber? I'll let you guys decide. I know I've done this before. I've screwed that name up before. Revans Saber. It sounds so elegant. Benjamin Lee is here. Your son is married? Oh, yeah, he is. He's got married in December. So my 14-year-old son, no, that's not true. He's 28, will be 29 on the 4th of July. He was born on the 4th of July. Well, you know, there is some truth to that, but there's also some truth to this. So leg kick, getting the show started off right. Stephen Ng is here. Hey, Stephen, thanks for joining us. Let's see what else we got here. Sheldon Martin has joined us. This is the last July 2nd live stream. I don't know. Is it? I don't know. Benjamin Lee's been waking up at 10:30, sleeping till. I've been waking up at 10:30 because he has been going to sleep till 3 a.m. I think that's what he's trying to tell me. What did I think of Top Gun Maverick? Well, this isn't a review show, but I will say I liked it a lot. So there you go. It was kind of gave me that good old 80s feeling, you know? It was very exciting. Stretched credibility a little bit here and there, but that's what you expect. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to go see it 20 times like some people have, but I certainly see why it's making the money it's making. It's all American, baby. So this is true. I don't want to get into football talks. I know that bores most of you, but Stephen Ng, of course, is pointing out that USC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten, I was shocked when I heard that. Shocked, which basically means the Pac-12 is pretty much history. It'll be amazing to see what happens over the next few weeks and months on the landscape of college athletics. I don't know if my son is all that. Excuse me while I eat a snack. This is a garlic and tomato basil Triscuit with some, I think this is Colby cheese. Comic Book Bob says, I'm pulling a 12-hour. I need entertainment. You know, I remember those days, Bob. Barely. When I worked in commercial art, I remember pulling I worked 3 days straight. Stayed at the studio 3 days straight. Took a couple naps on the couch of love, which was a couch I had in my studio. I'll leave it at that. And yeah, it was like a Friday night job. Had to be done Monday morning. Ugh, that happened more than once. Usually it was storyboards, but this was like a big poster thing. I don't remember why it had to be done so quickly, but it was a long, long weekend. I can tell you that. USA. Love it. Well, look, I went to Oregon State for 1 year before going to community college to get my general eds out of the way, then transferring to USC. So my son went to Oregon State, which he graduated with an engineering degree. My wife went to Oregon State, where she played volleyball and got her teaching degree. So, yeah, Nebraska is my favorite team. USC, where I attended, doesn't even really register with me because I was so brainwashed on Nebraska football growing up that they stay my number one college team. But Oregon State is kind of a near and dear to my heart. So, yeah, there you go. Sheldon, everything gives me heartburn these days. So, all right. So, what are we here for? Well, you guys may or may not recall that I have been kind of promoting my wraparound Wraith of God Blood Hunters cover. And I've got that inked. It's scanned. It's in Photoshop. It's just been flatted. Well, it's almost done flatted. My daughter's flatting it, but she's taking her sweet time. She should be working right now, but instead she's sleeping. So as I'm waiting for that to get flatted and, you know, coloring it, I've been flatting it a little bit too, but I started work on the second cover to the Blood Hunters campaign, which would be the B option. And we're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to work on that today. But I want to give you a quick update also that Wraith of God, the graphic novel, which you see behind me, there it is. There it is. And the banner behind me. I've been told more than once from my printer that they're shipping that sucker out to me on Tuesday. And it'll take anywhere from 2 to 4 days to get to me. So I'm expecting to have the books by like maybe Friday, Saturday at the latest. I'm hoping, if everything, you know, goes smoothly. So what does that mean? That means I start shipping to you guys, which means the sign up for Blood Hunters goes up immediately. And I'll try and run that for about a month. And then Blood Hunters goes live in the first week of August, if everything plays out the way I want it to. So, but I'm not going to go live with Blood Hunters until I have shipped out every book for Wraith of God. There it is back there. The graphic novel. So, but that doesn't keep me from working on the next campaign. So I'll have stuff done and ready to go. So that is what I'm doing today as I'm eating this cracker. Okay. So Mighty Geek Studios is here. Fly Fox Pro is here. I haven't seen Fly Fox in a row. I haven't seen him in a while. And Rodney Ulabari, hello and happy 4th. Hello, Rodney. Thanks for joining us. Okay. I've given you all the updates and all that kind of stuff. Oh, let me share this. This is kind of fun. If I can find it. See, remember, this is the last second live stream, so I am, as usual, completely unprepared. There it is. Okay. Part of the next campaign, there's going to be a variety of things. And one of them the much requested Bloody Werewolf Dale Keown design. This, of course, is Dale's artwork, colored by Gabe Eltiabe, who also is the colorist on Wraith of God. So this is the Bloody Werewolf variant, which I didn't want to put on the cover because I just thought it was too bloody. But that's not going to keep me from doing it as a t-shirt. So this is a t-shirt design, and this will be on the Blood Hunters campaign, along with, I will probably reissue the Wraith of God t-shirt from the first campaign. And if I can get it done in time, there will be an an Empire Comics t-shirt with a bunch of characters on it from Empire Comics. That would be my label, my universe. And so there'll be like a t-shirt, a perk package deal that you can get all 3 t-shirts, or you can get them individually or whatever. And I'm also, there's going to be I want to do a blacklight poster of this, but that's going to be a separate, I think I'm going to do a print and poster campaign, which is a separate deal from the Blood Hunters campaign, because you can't mail the posters and the prints with the books. They have to be mailed in tubes. So there's no point in making it the same campaign. It's going to be a whole separate thing just for, and there'll be like a Kit Carter print and some other stuff. But until I get all that stuff done, that's down the road a little bit, but it will be out. I will do it this year sometime. So we might also see an Empire Comics baseball cap and probably Garbage Man shot glasses to go along with the Wraith of God shot glasses. So there's just all kinds of product to go along with the next comic that I'll be doing. So I wanted to share that with you. Leg Kick actually picked up one of the t-shirts from me at the Washington State SummerCon. And you're right, I did buy, it is a good quality t-shirt. I bought the most expensive I could, which is a 50-50 blend of cotton and polyester. And it's really nice. So, yes, it's going to be absolutely be the same. You don't, once you start at the top, man, you don't just start downgrading and ripping people off. You give them quality. That's what I'm here for, man. It's quality. Well, I have the Empire Comics logo, yes, which I've been criticized by some designers as being too simplistic, but that's exactly why I like it. See it up there next to the Wraith of God on the banner? It says E. But the design is going to be that logo with a bunch of my characters surrounding it, kind of like an old Marvel t-shirt kind of thing. So, yes, it is. Well, crap, you haven't right. See, Sheldon, it's all part of my master plan to sucker you into buying stuff. Anyway, okay, so let's get to work. I ate my crackers and cheese. I'm ready to rock and roll. So, okay. We'll change cameras over to my Razer Cairo, which is a very nice high res. All right. So this is the wraparound, right? Which I'll just show you this again real quickly before we get started on the other one. So it's basically, this is what you'll see on the cover. So you've got Esther back here under the control of Count Korvac. That's his name. No, spoiler. This Nosferatu-like vampire, and the brides of the vampire are attacking the Wraith. And then, of course, this would be the back cover with all the other vampire babes back there. And, of course, the statue from the 1931 Frankenstein movie. It's right there, folks. So anyway, that's what I'm coloring right now. Some people are saying, make it a poster, make it a poster. Maybe I will, and I'll include it with the blacklight as part of the blacklight Dale Keown werewolf cover. Anyway, there you have what I'm working on now, which is the Tales of Suspense cover. And let's see if I can straighten this out just a bit more. Okay, so what do we have here? If you will check out an old, like 1966, 67 Tales of Suspense, that featured Iron Man and Captain America. They were doing, for a while, they were doing split screen covers where, half of it would be Iron Man, half of it would be Captain America. And then they eventually went to just alternating covers. So one month it was Cap, one month it was Iron Man. They'd go back and forth. But this is back when they were splitting the covers. And what this is going to say is up here at the top, it's going to say Wraith of God, Blood Hunters, okay, featuring, then of course we have Garbage Man and the Nightclub, okay. Now who's the Nightclub, you may ask? The Nightclub appears in the Garbage Man trade paperback, which is sort of their debut, and you'll see a little bit of them in the epilogue that was a stretch goal epilogue in the Wraith of God graphic novel, which will be in your hands soon. And of course, Garbage Man, the Garbage Man trade paperback is also something you can order as an add-on to the campaign. Excuse me, the existing campaign. And I'm trying to get some more from Dark Horse so I can have those available for people that want them in the next campaign. But anyway, so what you'll have Wraith of God, Blood Hunters, and the Wraith of God will be the lead story, 30-some pages, whatever it might end up being. I'm still finishing up the script on it. But then there'll be a Garbage Man story as a backup, and then there'll be a Nightclub story as a backup. And then if we hit a stretch goal, we're even going to include some Kid Carter stuff in there as well. But as of right now, so you're going to have, here's your split cover action. Wraith of God right there, because we don't want to forget about him. Since it's basically his book. We got our little Marvel box up here with the characters in them. This will be the issue number. That'll be the Comics Code Authority thingy. And we're going to have a banner down here across the bottom that says triple the action, or something like that. Something, old school Marvel-esque. But so anyway, that's the plan. That'll be the second cover option. So you have the wraparound cover, then you'll have this. And then we have a third cover option that is going to be, I hope, I'm working on a guest artist, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. So I'm not saying anything more than that until it does happen. Anyway, so let's get rocking on this. Let's get in here a little bit closer. We'll work on Garbage Man and just see what happens. Old Man says, Tales of Suspense and Tales of Astonish were awesome comics. They were. I love those things. Tales of Suspense are my probably favorite title from the Silver Age of Marvel. I do collect them. Thank you, sir. Well, originally, if you recall, some of you that are kind of hardcore, I'm going to use a 0.8 to do my outlining here. Those of you who were, that are really dialed into what I'm doing, will remember that originally, my next project was going to be Empire Events #1, which was basically going to be an anthology book that had Wraith of God, Garbage Man, and the Nightclub in it. And so this would have been, up here it would have said Empire Events featuring, because I really wanted to do an anthology book featuring the Loprestiverse characters, and an anthology book in the sense that these are all characters of the same universe. They all tie in together in some way, shape, or form. And it seemed like the best way to introduce multiple characters without having to do multiple projects. Because we all know how long it takes to crowdfund one of these books. And especially if you're doing long books like I am, this is going to start out as 64 pages, but if we hit the stretch goal for a Kid Carter, that's going to add another 15 pages in there. So then it's going to be, it's basically going to be 80 pages, 82 pages again, just like the Wraith of God graphic novel is 84 pages. So when you have that much material, you can't you're not going to be doing one of these every 3 months. So I figured the best way to do it was to, do backup stories, But I didn't want to, or an anthology type format, but I didn't want to minimize the success and the popularity of Wraith of God. He is my flagship title, so I didn't want him to get lost in an anthology book. So that's why we're going to go with releasing it as a Wraith of God book with backup stories in it. Sorry, let me get that so you can see what I'm doing. Which seemed like the best way to go. How I move forward beyond this, we'll see. Because I've got a lot of properties and they all sort of tie in, so I kind of want to get them out there, but I have to do it in a way that, you know, keeps my established audience happy with what they're getting. So but Garbage Man has gained some steam since the graphic novel, or pardon me, the trade paperback came out through Dark Horse, and then I made it part of this campaign as well. And so I've had a lot of people saying, hey, can you get some more Garbage Man? And so that's my attempt to do, is to give us a little bit more of everything. And all this will make more sense once you get the, once you get the Wraith of God graphic novel. And certainly if you picked up the Garbage Man trade paperback, which is not essential reading, but it will help you. I mean, it's essential reading for, you know, Garbage Man, but in terms of the Nightclub and Wraith of God, the trade paperback is not essential reading. It is the first appearance of the Nightclub, but you don't get a ton of information on them. You'll get more in this story. So, you know, if you're like, you know, feeling like I'm, you know, trying to squeeze you for too much cash or too many projects, you don't have to read the Garbage Man trade paperback to be able to enjoy Wraith of God and, you know, what's going on forward from there. But it is the introductory to the Nightclub, so that's the value it has. Again, I've sort of abandoned my use of the brush simply because I'm enjoying the convenience of the pen, and I'm attempting to create a different look overall for my work. You know, I think there is some value in you know, being consistent with what you're doing and trying to create an audience for that particular look, but it also at the same time as an artist, it kind of stunts your growth if you don't ever, you know, play with different tools. I remember reading a thing that Wrightson wrote years ago. It was an interview. It wasn't something he wrote, but it was an interview where he was talking about Swamp Thing, and that he had, by issue 10, and he only did the first 10 issues of Swamp Thing, and then he was done. But he had, you know, was a brush inker almost exclusively, and he felt that, you know, he was sort of it was becoming so easy for him to use the brush that he wanted to challenge himself. So the last issue, the 10th issue, which is really quite good, he inked the whole thing with a pen. or so, he said in this interview, because he wanted to challenge himself. And it looks fantastic, right? I mean, it still looks like Wraiths, and just because you're using a different tool doesn't mean you're suddenly, I go from looking like me to, Bill Sienkiewicz. It's not like that, but he wanted to challenge himself and do something a little bit different, and as an artist, and so he switched over to ink it with a pen. And it looks, fabulous. And I kind of feel the same way, that I kind of want to do that. So I've now switched over to a pen. And plus, and I've said this before, obviously, but I tend to, when I'm using a brush, you really have to maintain your focus and your concentration the whole time you're using the brush. And I tend to get sometimes, not so much on a single cover, because it's just a single illustration, but I get bored, and then I get sloppy, and then your inking suffers, right? Well, because your pen, regardless of, or these type of pens anyway, if you used a crow quill pen, you can get a variance in line thickness, but to get your line thickness, you kind of have to go over everything once or twice to vary the thickness. And so it's really very difficult, even if you get a little bit, shall we say, sloppy with your control, or and by that I mean with a brush, it's how much pressure am I applying to the page, and keeping that uniform pressure so I have complete control of what I want to do. I don't have to maintain that when I'm using these pens. And again, most of us are, pencilers first. And so we're more used to having a pencil in our hand and using a pencil. And so this is more, to me, more like penciling, which is what I'm most comfortable doing. Anyway, let's see what we got going on here in the chat, as I've been ignoring you fine folks. Let's see. There's Leg Kick giving me a plug for Garbage Man. Is a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's going to get more fun too. This story with the zombies is a little bit of a treat, I think. The Brohawk is in the house. Hey, I'm like Kirby, man. I don't get paid to erase. Let me give a plug here for David Williams. Two things he's got going on. Of course, if you guys have not checked out Truth, Justice, American Way on Indiegogo, that he and Gabe Tlaib and Gary Martin are working on, looks like it's going to be just a super fun, more traditional, dare we say, 80s style superhero book that we haven't seen in, quite frankly, a long time. So I would, and then David's just a brilliant artist, so you're really going to want to check that out. I think I know the story. He told it to me, and it sounds really cool. I won't spoil it for you guys, but I would highly recommend checking that out. And also, he's got Bass Reeves coming out, and I believe that is that on Kickstarter, where there's a collected volume with some new material of Bass Reeves. So you want to check that out as well. So David's kind of full force into the CG community these days, and you guys should be out there supporting him, not just because of that, but because he's does really good work, and that's the best reason to support anybody. And he's a darn good guy, and that's the other reason. Hey, Mike Miller's in the house to throw some crap my way. That's good. Oh, Mike, Mike. See, Mike's one of these purists, which I'm not anymore, but he still is. Where it's like, using the brush, that's the tool, man. If you can use the brush, then you're in like a higher level of artiste. And I mean, there is some truth in that. Especially if someone like Brian Boland, the way he uses it, it's just freaking amazing. But I have since learned, I have grown, Mike. I have grown and understand that it doesn't matter what tool you're using. All that matters is what does it look like when you're done. And that comes from the great Mike Plug and the great Kevin Nolan, who both would agree with that, I believe. We got some guys, Mike and Green Laser dropped in that link to Truth Justice. So there you go. Brohawk saying Indiegogo. So I assume he means Bass Reeves is on Indiegogo too. So there you go. They're brown, I think. Although you wear those funky shades all the time. You published, I don't know if it was Father's Day or something like that. You put up a picture of your dad holding you when you were like little. And man, it just cracks me up how much your dad looks like Clarence Williams III from Mod Squad. I mean, he really does. That's just... And if you guys are too young to know what the heck I'm talking about, go to David Williams' Instagram account, follow him, by the way, but also check out his post of the picture he put up of his dad. Then go to YouTube and watch the opening title sequence for the television show The Mod Squad from the 60s and early 70s. And tell me that's not the same dude. And I guess, Mike, Miller is, I guess, essentially correct. This is a marker, but it's a pen marker. So therefore it still is a pen. I don't like the Crow Quill because I couldn't get the line flexibility that I wanted. Everybody keeps telling me that, oh yeah, you can get great, once it's worn down a little bit, you can really get some nice effects with it. And maybe I'm just too impatient. I never really, I've used a pen a little bit, but those pens, in fact, I used it almost exclusively when I inked my Batman Black and White story, or pardon me, my Legends of the Dark Knight story. And but I had a mother of a time getting some line flexibility from that. And these are easier to use. And, after doing this for like 30 plus years, easy is a word I like to hear, or at least easier. And it still looks, looks fab. So, what the heck? So as Maverick Top Gun, they said, it's not the plane, it's the guy in the cockpit. Well, that's right. It's not the pen. It's the guy using the pen, Mike. So there you have it. That at least is my take on the whole thing. And I can still get those little, let's see if I can get in here closer. I can still get those little, thick to thin feather lines with this pen that you could get with a brush. So what the heck? What's wrong with that? Now look see, he uses Sharpies to ink. So any tool is a tool if it's in the right hands. Now I assume, David, that you're fully convinced that the new Sharpies are not going to turn purple and get weird over the years. Because I don't think they do that anymore, but it's so ingrained in me that the those, because that's what Sharpies used to do. And so it's like, never use a Sharpie, never use a Sharpie. And, but I think they've since, in fact, I know they've corrected that problem, but it's still in the back of my mind that if I ink with a Sharpie, it's going to turn purple in 15 years. But apparently that's not, David's not feeling that. Mike says, I inked with markers for years. It was a lot faster. The lines just didn't have the character that a traditional tool can get. Maybe you don't have the character, Mike. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, last time I talked to Adam, I don't know if he still talks to me or not, but when we still liked me. I'm not saying he doesn't like me. I don't know, but I haven't talked to him in a few years, obviously, because of pandemic and not seeing him at a show or anything. But we were both sort of complaining about our eyesight going, excuse me, as we get older. We spend so much time, close up looking at drawings, and working on drawings, just 8 inches away from the paper, that our vision isn't great. So he was saying he was using Sharpies and thicker pens, doing bolder work with his inking, which, still looks fantastic, because he's still drawing it, and the drawing is still there. But if you look at his originals, they're much bolder than his earlier work. And but the thing is, it's still great because it's so well drawn, and that's kind of the bottom line with any of this art, is how well it's drawn. You can get looser and thicker with your lines, depending what you want to do stylistically. But, if it's well drawn, you're not going to screw it up too badly. But doing those lines with a brush, I couldn't do them that quickly. And I don't know. I still admire Gary Martin, because he's older than me, and he's still doing it. And I know he said it's getting harder, but guy's got amazing control. And Matt Ryan, who inked me on most of my career, is another guy with, he's not as old as I am, but he's got great control and a real nice aesthetic to go with it. I don't know. He's still working in the mainstream, so. But if he ever gets to a point where he's not, I certainly wouldn't have any trouble bringing him on board to work on some of this stuff with me, which would allow me to get it done faster. Or I shouldn't say get it done faster, but get the product out faster. I would still be working at the same speed. I just wouldn't be doing as much. And it would still look really, really good. So we'll see how things develop over time. I kind of want to color everything myself too, but again, you guys would, me coloring an entire book would, you guys would, you'd never see it. But Gabe's doing a terrific job on the Wraith of God stuff, and I believe our own Dan Lawless is going to color my Garbage Man story. We haven't made that official, but he expressed interest in wanting to do it, and I'm all for it. Just to, get a different vibe in there. I really like Dan's stuff and his color sense. And I think if, especially in this day and age with, digital coloring, and the coloring is so important to the overall look of the finished product, that you have the same colorist on everything, then it's all going to sort of look the same. And so it kind of intrigues me to have different colorists work on different titles, to kind of create their own sort of look. So I'm all for Dan coming in and coloring this Garbage Man, because it'll have a totally different look than Wraith of God. And Nightclub Story, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I have some ideas, but we'll see how it pans out. And I also, the thing that, Mike talking about using a brush and stuff, is that I've kind of, as I've gotten older, kind of my tastes have changed a little bit. And I tend to like the angularity that you get with you can get much easier. You can still do it with a brush, but it makes it even harder. But I like, really kind of fallen in love with Danny Mickey's work. I mean, not just recently, I've always loved it, but as a style that could be effectively used on my pencils. And although I can't ink like Danny inks, I can kind of bring that sensibility with a pen a lot easier than I can with the brush. Now, somebody like Jonathan Glapion, that guy's nuts, because he actually uses a brush, but I had no idea because his stuff looks like a pen. So he really uses the brush to make a pen look. And by the same token, Frank Cho uses a pen, but tries to get it to look like a brush. So all sorts of weird stuff going on out there in the art world. But again, it all comes down to the guy using the tool, more than it does the tools that you're using. Yeah, I would have agreed with that. I would, I don't even know if Mark is still working, but yeah, I would have loved at some point to have him make something of mine. But I think Matt Ryan is really, really close to the Farmer's approach. So I don't think it would be all that different, but I would love to see it. Cooley Cotton says, really looking forward to the comic. Thank you so much, Cooley. I appreciate that. If Kelsey could pencil, ink, and color a whole book, you can too, Aaron. Just do it. I might be able to save some time if I actually hired flatters, because that's it takes up so much time doing that, and I just never think to do it. I end up flatting stuff, and I'm like, why did I just waste 3 days flatting this? I might. But it would, well, I'll tell you this, the Kit Carter stuff, if it ends up in this book, which, I'm hopeful that it will, all that stuff I've colored myself. Because I have about half of that done. I have about 8 episodes, and by episodes, I mean single page, like newspaper type Sunday strip stories. They're all connected. But that's what I'm going to run as a bonus backup feature in this Blood Hunters campaign if we hit the stretch goals, which I think the stretch goal will be $100,000, and then I will add that to it. But those are half done, and so I'd only have to do, I think, 7 more to complete the story arc that currently started with that. And I colored all those, so. but it seems less daunting to me when you're like doing like one page at a time, kind of as you get around to it. But yeah, so those will be all colored by me. But I got too many ideas and too much stuff I want to get done, and at some point I have to, in order to be able to do all that stuff, I've got to farm out some of the work, and in this case, just the coloring. And maybe, you know, down the road, like I said, if I'm very, 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 very particular about my inkers, also pretty particular about my colorists as well. But yeah, do I envision someday having like a, you know, a company that's producing 3 or 4 books or something at one time? That would be great. If I could ever, you know, let go of creative control enough to do that and just kind of act as editor-in-chief, like working on one book myself while I had other people working on the other titles. I don't know. We'll see. There's a pain in the butt as the production part of comic books or books is. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy putting everything together and making it, you know, work and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. How did you come up with that lettering, or did someone else establish it for you? I assume he's referring to this. No, I had a vision, if you will, of what I wanted to do, and what I did was, I think, don't quote me on this, I can't remember 100%. What I did was I printed out a type font, like for Garbage Man. I think it was no, I can't remember. It wasn't Impact. I can't remember what it was now. And I printed it out black, and then I basically light tabled it on, and then did all the garbage stuff so that I would have like a template underneath for the lettering. Because if I didn't, it would have taken me forever, because I would have had to measure out every single space between the letters and your vertical lines and your horizontal lines. So basically, then I then just dressed it up with the garbage stuff, right? And then this is basically whatever lettering font it was, and I just traced it on there because I wasn't doing anything special with the man part of it. I knew how I wanted it to look, but again, I printed out typefaces in Photoshop, and then light tabled them on, and then kind of dressed them up to do what I wanted them to do. This nightclub thing, as you can see, this is going to be black. It's a silhouette of the city. This will all be blue inside here with a little moon there. And then the club part down at the bottom is going to have this, it'll be black, but it'll have, so the city will be black, and then this will be black, but this outline will be like a neon, you know, pink or green or something like that. I haven't decided on the color yet. And that'll be that logo. Whether or not these remain, if I were to do a book, I don't know if I would keep these as the main logos. But for what I'm doing here, I thought they work pretty well. They're smaller and more compact. But I don't know if I would use these going forward as the actual logo for the book. And I'm glad you brought that up, because where is it? because I do, and I brought this up before, I do a lot of my own, or all of, well, not all of it, because sometimes I forget to put in special effects lettering and then decide I want something in there later, then it has to be put in digitally. But like for the Garbage Man trade paperback, that obviously I did that lettering, and it was easier because it was organic, and I just sort of made it part of the bark of the tree. And then that logo right there, which I kind of like that lettering, I did that as well. So I may use this font for if we do the shot glasses with Garbage Man on it. But this Reborn Identity as the title of the story, that of course is worked into the art. I drew all that stuff. I did this. And a lot of this is just freehand. I didn't really have any structure to it. The one thing, but this, for example, the title here of this story is Toxic Revenger. Get it? And again, I worked that into the story, right? So I had to do the perspective and measure out the distance, how much width I wanted the letters to have and all that kind of stuff. And so this took me a while. I mean, it was a pain in the butt because it was just like drawing a building, right? You had to go in with your perspective and your ruler, which is, I just absolutely hate doing. And where's the other one I wanted to show? This is spoiler alert for those of you waiting on the Garbage Man trade paperback, so I apologize. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I know it's in the back. Sorry. Okay, this one here. Again, that's the same type of thing. That was all perspective. Of course, I worked. It was more kind of like a spirit type thing that Eisner would do. So I worked in the, some of the garbage and sticking out of the lettering, which is a little bit what I did here on a smaller scale. But this was all perspective and stuff like I was doing buildings or whatever. And then, of course, this, I drew kind of the side of the mountain there, the rocks that this creature was standing on, and then just kind of worked in the logo, the Garbage Man title logo. And I did that on all of them. These were all like interior covers, like introductory pages to the stories when they first appeared in the anthology books at DC. But, this is his arm oozing and spilling out Garbage Man. And that's the Garbage Man logo they used on the very front. And there's the Danny Mickey piece in the back in black and white. And then I colored this one. So anyway, and there's the Garbage Man logo again. So anyway, that's probably a long answer to a very short question. Yeah, I can see why you would say that, but this is going up for sale and as part of the campaign. So I want as much of this stuff on the original art to make it more attractive from that standpoint. If I was doing it from not a technical standpoint, but from a production standpoint, that's exactly how I do it. I wouldn't even put these logos on here. I would have had them separately, but and this banner down here would have been something I wouldn't make part of the original art. But again, I'm going to sell this original, and I think having all that stuff on there is part of the appeal. So that's why I'm doing it that way. Yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to. That's the thing. And I'm going to have a scan of it, so I can always use it and drop it in later too as a scan if I need to. Because I was going to take existing drawings that I already did and drop them in there, but then I was like, that again, then the original art's not as cool. And so, again, I'm taking into consideration the cool feature of the original art. Now, this when it says Wraith of God Blood Hunters, I'm not going to do that by hand. I'm going to drop that in, and whatever I end up putting down here, I'm probably going to drop in with lettering. And in here and here and the comics code thing will all be dropped in. But I wanted as much of the artwork to be, or the lettering and the extras to be part of the original artwork. His wife, Hoarder Woman, and Garbage Man team up. I think, might be onto something there. The new GM logo looks better. So you like this one better than the one from the book. Okay. All right. Well, the only thing I'm afraid of is this, when you laser etch this into something small like a shot glass. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, these are the Wraith of God shot glasses. So you have the logo laser etched into the glass. I'm afraid this, with all this little detail and stuff, it might turn into a mess on there. I don't know. So I'm a little concerned. That's why I want something maybe not quite as detailed, a little bolder, perhaps. How much did you pay Troma Productions for that? I don't know what you mean. You'll have to elaborate. I don't have any idea what you're talking about there. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Is make it like a neon sign. Don't use the seal. Don't use the seal. I can't remember exactly what you're referring to. Seal. So while you guys elaborate that in the chat, I'll get back to inking. Well, I assume you're talking about Toxic Avenger. So basically, I was doing a parody or a pun of it, so I wouldn't have to pay them anything. Aaron Lopez, did you like my good-natured prank? Well, Geek, I'm trying to remember what you're I don't know what you're referring to. Something on Twitter that I don't remember. I know you said something on one of the last live streams, and I gave you your pass because you won a free pass to insult me without getting cannonballed. But I can't remember what you said now. In that other live stream I was doing. But I do know you insulted me, and I let it go because I owed you one. But of course, I don't anymore. So anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of the cannonball justice. So just keep it in mind. Oh no, I know that. I know they. Someone owns that. I've got my own. I remade one on my own. That's actually featured on the. It's not called the Comics Code Authority. It's I can't remember what I called it, but yeah, Graham Nolan made me aware of that. Somebody actually owns the copyright on that. So I'm like I said, I made my own, so it kind of looks like it, but it's not the same. So it's on the laugh out loud. It's in the mail. Oh, in the mail. Okay, well I haven't got it yet. Then. I did just get a notification that there was something at my PO box, so maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. See, now he's warned me that there's a prank coming, but at least it's good natured. Yeah, but there's a, let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know where I've got it at. Let's see here. Give me a second. I've got there. Okay, hang on a second here. No, that's not it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. You can see it here. Let me share the screen. I'll show you. This is for Mighty Geek Studios. Okay. So you see this right there? That's on the 70s version. Okay. No, the original one says approved by the Comics Code Authority, and mine says approved by the Comics Book Authority, and this CBA is different than what they're doing, so it's it ain't the same seal. Just kind of looks like it. That's right. I'll get one of the Shelley giving me the look. Cooley Cotton, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Dark Side's Comics, is this a new comic of a commission? No, it is not. It's a this is the there's going to be 3 cover options for the next Wraith of God campaign, and this is one of them. My Tales of Suspense homage cover is what this is. And to give you an idea, basically kind of what I based it off of, see, that's 1965, I think, actually. This right here, in case you want to know, it has the origin of the Red Skull in it. So basically, I'm using this as a template. So here you've got your box where it says Tales of Suspense, right? And I'm going to make mine sort of like flames because it's Wraith of God. And so where it says Tales of Suspense here, it's going to say Wraith of God Blood Hunters, and featuring, instead of Iron Man and Captain America, it's Garbage Man in the Nightclub. And then, of course, you've got your split frame of your action here. And then I threw in the circle inset of Wraith of God, since this only had 2 stories in it. The Iron Man Captain America story, this has actually 3 and potentially 4. So I want to make sure we didn't forget it was a Wraith of God comic. So he's featured there, and the other 2 things. So that's kind of what that's based off of. And it will be for sale, as I said, but it's not specifically a commission. It's going to be used as a cover. Yeah, well, David, here you go. I hate to do that to David Williams, but, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Real PHV, it's got to go. But have fun, everyone. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Gumby Spawn, perhaps the most impressive spawn of them all, says, wow, impressive. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. All right, let me get in here close. As I'm working on this face. Of course, I'm using the old 0.1. That's the only thing that's kind of a downside to these pens is when you go in for really, really fine detail like this, and you really need a fine line, you can really get that with a brush. With a pen, pretty much, even if you have a light touch, it's still going to give you pretty much the same thickness. So I just have to be careful that I don't get too broad with a line. That's why I tend to use more of a broken line, especially on these closer shots. And I go really, really light to keep from ending up with a heavier line than I want. Of course, Garbage Man has these toxic color spots all over him. That's a color spot there. He has one around this eye. That's what this is right here. Of course, I didn't put in all of the little twigs and details popping out of his body, but because I knew I could just kind of add those with the pen as I went in, or as Mike Miller would say, the marker. Now I will go in with the solid blacks and fill that in with a brush and the India ink. So this all in here will be this will be a solid black shadow area here. Just put an X in there so I don't forget. And of course, that's solid black in there and in here, right there. He has this big, like kind of a sort of concrete left arm. It gives him some extra power if he needs to punch a hole through a wall or something like that. And again, I'll make this that outline really rough on this. And my line work on this finger obviously follows the contour of the finger, so that we get that, so it doesn't go flat on me, but you kind of get that rounded shape. And he only has 3 fingers on this hand as opposed to 5. Again, this is going to be solid black in here. And a little shading here to give it a little volume. It's interesting how loose, when you get in there super close, some of that can be, but how when you reduce down, it sort of comes together and looks much tighter than maybe it would appear to be in the original upon closer inspection. And this, I just kind of wiggle my hand and drag the tip of the pen to kind of create that looser texture. And again, following the contour of this arm. Kind of get that rounded. You start doing stuff like this, and you can really get carried away into noodling. And I could never do this with a brush as loosely and as, dare I say, cavalierly as I am with this pen. It would look really sloppy. I'd have to be really on top of my control and making sure every one of these lines was perfect. And well, I don't really have to be with these pens. Oops. So there's Garbage Man before I fill in the blacks. Boo! Oh, yeah, microns, exactly. Oh, 0.01. I do the outlines in a 0.8, and I use an 8, a 3, a 5, and a 1, or generally depending on how thick a line I want. Technically, he probably could. Although he doesn't really work that way. He does regrow appendages and stuff when he loses them. Like if you cut his arm off, his arm will grow back. If he has garbage or organic material to draw up from, he can't create it out of his own system, but he can take it. If he was lying in the dirt, it would suck up the dirt and tree branches and rocks and form a new arm for him. But he doesn't really grow like extra appendages and stuff. Lions art page, I do not digital ink at all. I have never what am I missing here? Okay. Yeah, see, that woke David up, that cannonball I gave him a while back. I'm late to this clam bake. It's because I'm black. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny that. I don't know. You might have heard the microwave downstairs. Shelly's wandering around down there doing something. God, Boo! Oh, you're just going to have to work on your jokes. Of course, he has to let me know he's joking, but of course I knew you were joking, but that's not cannonball worthy. Not quite yet. Probably should make some of this a little darker in through here. Give it a little more volume. All right, let me do one of these zombies. Let's go in here a little bit closer. I really like to go in and, if I remember, and that's the thing, it's like, you know, you do things instinctually, and then sometimes they're really not the best thing. But I prefer when I'm doing like hair and stuff to not like do every line, but to, you know, put some black, heavier black areas in there to kind of create some volume, so the hair has a little bit of mass to it. I'm not saying you don't put in any detail, you know, but, you know, Frazetta was really great at, you know, picking out some spots to really lay in some heavy blacks and really create volume with the hair he did, especially on women with the longer hair. Again, I'm hitting this really lightly and sort of dragging it and dotting it a little bit to get more of a broken line quality, so that, let's see if that'll focus. So those lines don't get too heavy. I mean, I suppose I could use a 0.05, but I got one laying around here, but, you know, use what's in my hand. The great things about drawing these monsters or zombies or things like that is that there's, you know, your structure doesn't have to be right on the money. You know, you can have a jawline way up here and another one lower down here, because, you know, decay and shifting and things like that in the grave might make somebody's jaw awkward or uneven. And that's just sort of plays into the creepiness of all of it. I'm never quite sure how, you know, decayed I want all of the body to be, because it's kind of like, you know, do I go in there with a you know, like his neck was just an exposed spinal column, or is there still going to be some flesh hanging on it? I mean, technically, depending on how old the zombie is, right, there wouldn't really be any flesh. If it's coming up out of the grave and it's been in there for 100 years, you know, you're looking at a skeleton, right? But Where's the fun in that? And again, I always get sort of, it's really easy to get enamored with line work and then leave out, the heavier blacks, which really create the volume. And so I'll do some line work sometimes and go back and go, you know what? I should have blacked that in. And then you kind of get frustrated because you're like, I just spent all that time on that line work and now I'm just going to blacken it all in. But so many times it actually looks better with those heavy blacks spotted in there to really create volume. Again, it depends on what you like too. I mean, if you're someone who really digs a lot of line work and kind of a fuller three-dimensional quality isn't necessarily what you're striving for. I happen to like both, so I try to marry sort of both ideas, using solid blacks to create volume, but also, the line work to create that really sort of detailed and visceral look that sort of creates a artificial energy that, there's no movement obviously on this two-dimensional piece, but line work can create that illusion or help create that illusion of movement or energy in your drawing. And these are always, this is kind of the fun stuff, because when you got like clothing and stuff decaying, and it doesn't even really, there's no structure here other than, there's that figure or what's left of the figure underneath that clothing, but the clothing's decayed, the figure's decayed. So really you're putting together a mass of lines and shapes that aren't, they're loosely structured in the sense that, okay, that's a person, but, or that, that thing is functioning as a human being, but, it's not like all your folds and all your creases in the clothing have to be perfect. It's because they're in various stages of decay. So you can have a little bit more fun with this stuff and just kind of wing it. But you also got to be careful that you don't get too busy and too messy and overdo it. Because then you can lose focus on your figure and what you're trying to do storytelling wise. I did talk about this a little bit on one of my Sunday shows with Wrightson's Frankenstein, and how he was able to use tremendous amounts of line work, but also would leave open spaces and areas to focus your attention on a single character or a single part of a character, like a face or, whatever that case may be, rather than just, go crazy with lines everywhere until everything is just this mass of lines. In some ways it looks cool, but in other ways you can't really differentiate between the lines, and you're just seeing this mass of line work. You're kind of working against yourself as a storyteller. Let's see. A.K. Gary Martin. Is Aaron a wussy for not using a brush? Well, he's asking the question. He's not accusing me of being a wussy, which would get him into trouble. Exactly. Oh, I'll put it out there, with everything finished in black and white before I color it. Did you use a straight edge on the type logo, or is that freehand? Looks really scarp. I think you mean sharp. Justin, I went over this a little bit earlier, but basically in a nutshell, I printed out, I created the type logos in Photoshop, and then printed those out, then light tabled them on the board, and then added the details. Like the Garbage Man was just straight lettering. Sorry. The Garbage Man was straight lettering, then I added all the garbage detail to it to rough up the letters and stuff. But sometimes it depends. On these, I had pretty good ideas of what I wanted them to be, and so I kind of created them in Photoshop and then light tabled them on there, and then added, like on the club part, I added that the line around there that's going to be like a neon around that. And then you go in and sort of, if the lettering isn't exactly what you want, you got to go in and sort of make it. But at least with that template, your spacing's correct and all that kind of stuff. That's really a pain in the butt to do by hand, by measuring all that stuff out. By the way, ink art is black Gary Martin. Richie Dupe is here. Hail and bananas to all. Thanks for joining us. Oh my gosh. I keep hoping for improvement, but I'm just not getting it. But keep trying. There you go. I think there's some truth to that. I think Wrightson might have had a nervous breakdown after he did Frankenstein. I mean, that's just so much work, and tedious work too. That's true, but I think we have to give a little bit of leeway to the whole zombie genre, right? No, there's a good point. Like the amount of, say, like Twinkies or junk like that, you're right, you got so many preservatives in your system, you wouldn't decay. Mike, when you're on someone else's channel, you need to learn some respect. That's a lesson I hope that you'll take with you. Yeah, I'm sure he is. Everybody's jealous of my body hair. Let's see, Randy. Hey, look at that. Don Korn, all the way from Illinois. Thanks for joining us, Dawn. I hope you are having a happy 4th of July weekend. Yeah, if Ethan does if he does another auction, I will. I got a couple of Babe pieces I did, like the CG vacation piece and the one I did for Graham's portfolio. I'll put those up for auction. Heck yeah. Okay, that one, that's good enough. See, he kept working at it, and he finally got one that was all right. Well, Pork, why don't you transplant this? There you go. All right. It's enough maintenance for now. Let me finish this zombie right here. Now, you'll notice I indicated some of the wrinkles in here. So I had kind of a template to go forward with. And just kind of wing it the rest of the way. And it can add stuff, but it's still following that same sort of established contour, if you will, of the figure. I never would have had enough courage to ink like this, basically, drawing with the ink. Until I started doing this independent stuff. And you know what it was? I was in, I did a lot of virtual Erin cons during the pandemic. I'm sorry, I meant to say Erin. Yeah, during the pandemic. And so I was doing like a ton of sketch commissions, or what we call sketch commissions. They're obviously way more detailed for most people than what would normally be a traditional sketch. But and so I got into this sort of habit of doing a lot of drawing with the pen, for live streams and commissions and whatnot. And so I got real comfortable doing this type of thing, even on something that's as important as a cover or on the interiors of the pages. Now it helps when your subject matter is, something like this, where actually having really slick and defined lines sort of works against what you're attempting to do. So people are going to accept a little bit more loose or freehand sort of approach than they might if you were drawing Superman. Heterosexual Superman, I mean. I don't know what expectations are for the other stuff. So anyway, I can go in and just kind of fudge the Why are zombies never arrested? Because they can never be taken alive. Wah, wah, wah. I am. I'm on edge, so watch out. In fact, you might say that I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. So, you know. Oh, Peyton, thanks for joining us. Nothing brings more joy to my heart than to be able to do that. So appreciate it. All right, no, I'm not even gonna waste the time to go up there and hit the button for that. Oh my gosh. It is pretty funny how, I mean, not unexpected, but how funny it is to what a product as artists we all are from, you know, our influences are when we're young. You know, I still do things the way Wrightson did them. Of course, put through my filter, right? No one's going to line my work up next to Wrightson and go, wow, that's identical. But just the way I do some stuff and approach some stuff, especially when I'm doing monster work, it just amazes me sometimes. Just, you know, when I kind of step back and look at it and I'm like, gee, where did I get that from? You know, because I don't really go every once in a while. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't pick up Wrightson or Frazetta and look at their stuff to solve problems that I have artistically, like I did when I was young. I just kind of do my own thing, but I am problem solving the same way from what I learned from them when I was growing up. And I remember the stuff, right? And so then it gets filtered through your brain, and it's not exactly the way they would have done it, but it's how you remember them doing it, right? And so you go to that as a default. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's overstating the obvious, but I just think it's interesting. And I don't know. I've always been kind of, I never wanted to be someone who copied another artist because I always felt that was sort of cheap, you know? It's like, oh, I love Kevin Nolan stuff. I'm going to try really hard to draw just like Kevin Nolan. Or, you know, it's like, you know, there already is a Kevin Nolan. So I can be inspired by him or Neil Adams or Bernie Wrightson or whatever, and certainly glean stuff from them. But I never really understood the desire to draw exactly like somebody. I mean, I get it as a kid because they're your favorite artist and you're kind of like, oh, I wish I could draw just like Wrightson or just like Frazetta. So you try really, really hard to do that. But then when you get older and you're trying to make your own way as an artist, it's kind of like that's the last thing you want to do. You know, you want to have your own identity and personality. And so it always amazes me when I see guys that are working professional that are just blatantly ripping off someone else's style. And it's easy to tell when they're trying to copy somebody's style or if they're influenced by them. I mean, they're two different things because we're all influenced by somebody, or many people in most cases. But I never wanted other pros or fans, for that matter, to look at my stuff and go, oh, that guy's just copying, so-and-so. And sometimes it is tempting, though, because your favorite artist, I mean, you absolutely love their stuff, right? And so it's like, and I've always been one that, I love everybody else's stuff and hate my own. So the allure to draw like someone else is even greater, I think, at times for me. But it's funny that, having been in the industry for 30 years, that I'm finally getting to a place where I'm really comfortable with what I'm doing artistically and starting to think that it has, some merit, within the industry, where I never felt that way before. I always felt like I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, and I never was very pleased with what I was doing. But ultimately, you got the talent you've got, and you've got the ability that you've got, and you just do the best you can with it. And a lot of times, for me, it wasn't good enough, so that's what pushes me to be better or to work harder at getting better. But it is nice to kind of, at some point, get a feeling of satisfaction that that you've hit upon something that you finally feel works, and that you're, feel like, well, I can put this up against a lot of other artists and it'd be all right. It's taken me a long time to get to a point where I can even, process that as a potential reality. I've been trying to, Mike. I just can't get a grip on what you're doing. It doesn't make any sense. Oh my gosh. All right, that's it. I can't take any more of this. There you go. You got it. You finally earned it. Well, it's dead serious, but there's a sense of I don't know if humor is the right word, but maybe black humor might be a better way of putting it. I'm just waiting for David Williams to jump on that, but it's not a funny story, but it's odd. Let me put it that way. They're not zombies in the traditional sense that you would imagine. What we've seen in modern times for flesh-eating zombie type stuff. It's not like that. But it is. It's. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, they used to call it black humor. Okay, dark humor. Sorry, dark humor. My wife keeps telling me to do that, to set up a thing where I do like portfolio reviews and have people send in samples and go over it online, so, I mean, that could be potentially embarrassing to the person who sends their stuff in. But I mean, if you're courageous enough to put your work out in front of everybody and have, me give you my 2 cents worth, she keeps thinking I should do that. I've always been sort of, now I could always take criticism, but I'm always afraid other people can't. And so if you point out the flaws in their work, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or make someone feel bad, so I've always sort of resisted doing that. But I know there's a lot of people that want portfolio reviews and they want to learn and they want to get better and they want to be able to see stuff in their work or be able to have stuff pointed out in their work that maybe they're not seeing. And that's really the key to getting better, is getting to a point where you recognize where you're failing in your work and what you need to do to make it better. And that's a really, really difficult place to get to as an artist. But that's when you really start to grow, is when you can say, okay, yeah, this sucks. This is why, but also understanding what you need to do to make it better. See, but Mike loves ripping on people. See, so that, it was a lot of fun for him. They were probably just, lighting people's samples on fire and, just, but not me. I'm the kindler, gentler artist. So, oops, sorry. Wait a minute, Cabbage Man. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to copyright that. No, that's. Well, no, that is the truth. And I used to teach a class, and I would tell guys, I said, look it, man, I'm not your mom. I'm not here to tell you how good you are. And that will chart your path for you. If you take the criticism, even if it pisses you off, if you take the criticism and use it for inspiration to get better, then you're winning. If it depresses you and you want to quit, then you've got no chance. Because this is like any other creative industry, it's highly competitive and it's brutal, just brutal. And you got to be able to take it. You got to be able to take the hits. And you also have to be intelligent enough to know when the criticism is BS or when it's, I don't want to hire you for whatever reason, but it's not your art, but I'm going to tell you that your art sucks so that I have a reason not to hire you. Or the criticism that is really valuable because what they're saying is actually true. But you have to understand that editorial critiques are very different than artistic critiques. As an artist, I'm going to tell you what I think of your art and how you can improve your art. An editor will look at your stuff and think, there's something appealing about this. And it doesn't matter if it's well drawn or those are secondary concerns to the visceral response that an editor has to your work. And that stuff's a little bit harder to categorize, right? And, that's why you have someone like Alan Davis getting work and Rob Liefeld getting work, or Boland getting work, right? So it's like, you're not going to be able to go to Brian Boland and go, oh, you really need to improve on that, figure work or whatever. But Rob, you might be able to say, especially early on in his career, you might be able to say, well, you could, this could be drawn better, that could be drawn better, whatever. But he's one of the most successful comic artists of all time. Why? Because his work had a visceral impact. And the editors were like, I really like the energy coming off this. Or McFarlane, too. McFarlane's not the best draftsman in the world, but he's, maybe the most successful comic artist of all time. And you can probably find a lot of guys that you look at and say, oh, either they draw better than Todd McFarlane does, but they're nowhere near as successful. So there is that visceral impact, that energy that your work has, that style that your work has, that makes you that you can't really qualify, right? So, and that's why I've always said that, getting an artist to critique your work is fine, But the people you want to get critiques from are editors, because they're the ones that are hiring, and they'd be looking at something totally different. Because I could come to you, if an editor told you something and you come to me and say, an editor said this, what do they really mean? I might be able to translate it for you by what I see in your work. But yeah, when you get artists to critique your work, you're probably going to improve as an artist. You're going to get artistic critiques, but that's not necessarily the bottom line when it comes to getting hired. So it's a very weird thing. Actually, his foot is right there, and the other foot is right here, but the zombie coming out of the ground is covering it up. So there. I don't avoid drawing feet at all. Feet are not, I mean, they are challenging, but I've sort of got over that. It's just a matter of hands tend to be more difficult, especially, they're holding a gun or they're holding something, because there's a lot of fingers to deal with. Ghostly says it's a good way to include the crowd, and as harsh as, no matter how harsh the critique may be, it helps. Well, see, but that's the thing. I wouldn't have hired McFarlane either, based on my artistic prejudices, right? And that would have been a huge mistake, because, I mean, look at the sales numbers on his books. I mean, so it's a weird thing. You have to be, if you're going to be an art director, you have to have someone with a broader vision than just right and wrong. You have to be able to see something in someone that says, okay, yeah, I don't like this, but I think it'll sell, and it's a weird thing. It's a very weird thing. I mean, I always like to compare, like Barry Smith's Conan work to John Buscema's Conan work. Most people would say that, especially in his early stuff, that Buscema was a much better draftsman than Barry Smith was. But Barry Smith's original art is worth tons more than John Buscema's. So why is that? It's because Barry Smith's approach is very unique, where John's is very traditional, well done, but traditional. You're not getting any surprises with John Buscema's work. You're just getting really good work, where Barry Smith is doing stuff that you don't see from anybody else, right? So it's that uniqueness that carries the day and makes Barry Smith a more desirable artist, just from a overall fans standpoint and an art collector standpoint, than John Buscema. So, and not that Barry Smith hasn't done some great stuff, but if you look at especially his early, Conan stuff, and his like his faces and his really big eyes and small noses and all that kind of stuff. But he also did some ornate, detailed type work that Buscema never did. So it's art is a subjective thing, but you have to be able to kind of look beyond the subjectivity that any artist has and be able to see certain qualities that might make them popular or might make fans gravitate towards their books. And I often say this to my daughter, who's also an artist, is that she's a dancer and a choreographer as well. And she does really well through choreography and has won awards and stuff. And it's because she's able to think outside the box. She just naturally thinks outside the box. I am a traditionalist, and so I have a traditional approach to art. And the way I try to win with my art is to make it as good as I possibly can within the parameters of it being traditional. But that holds you back from, stardom, because you're not bringing anything new to the table in terms of visual style. But if you're thinking outside the box, even if you're not the greatest draftsman in the world, but if you're doing something that other people are not doing, they can really, turn heads and make you a superstar. So I would have been a great art director like in the 40s and 50s. Post 1960s, though, not so much. But I will say this, I have got to a point where I can recognize, even if it's a style I don't like, I can recognize something that looks professional and something that doesn't, based on the artistic parameters they're working in. So being professional isn't just one thing. It's how you execute the style that you're working in that makes you work professional or not, or feel professional. I love elephant dudes. I think they're cool. Now, for those of you who are just curious, you'll see I've got a set of eyes up here. You may be saying, well, who's that? Well, I have a character that I did put up on Twitter, and is one of the stretch goals in the Wraith of God graphic novel was those of you who are children of the 70s will remember the Marvel character value stamps that came in every issue. And so that was one of the stretch goals, to include a Empire Comics value stamp similar to the old Marvel ones. And the character that is in there is a character called Eon Chance. And this will be the first official appearance of Eon Chance in a story. So there you go. Those of you who are interested in that sort of thing. He does play a role in this nightclub story. And we kind of get an idea of his bigger picture for the Lopresti verse, if you will. That's an interesting observation. Co-divided. I like that word. Well, wait a minute, Vic. Wait a minute. I'm not hating on Todd. I'm acknowledging his greatness. I'm just saying that from a traditional art standpoint, his stuff is, very unconventional. And it's not something that, from my tastes, that I would have understood or gravitated to if I was hiring. But I was a fan of his stuff even as a 20-something-year-old. I bought Spider-Man, and I recognized the fact that he was doing something nobody else was doing. Whether or not I thought it was well drawn, was irrelevant. Absolutely, I am. There's like a bulletin page in the book. Um, and I don't have Stan's soapbox. I have Aaron's articulations. So there you go. Coming soon. Coming soon. You have to hang in there, though. Mike is always going bigger. I find that somewhat clever, but not laugh out loud clever. But I do kind of, I'm internalizing the humor of it. I do appreciate it. I have an appreciation for that joke. How's that? Yeah, there you go. I wasn't a big Mignola fan either, to be honest with you, when he started getting really weird. But then I sort of gained an appreciation for it and really kind of dig it now. So, see, look at Vic. We're not hate. See, Vic, you're misinterpreting. It's not hate. It's admiration. But I know a lot of people didn't. A lot of people. Oh, I'm trying to think of the editor that hired McFarlane to do Spider-Man. Jim Salicrup. He got a lot of crap for, and even the readers didn't really respond well initially to McFarlane's stuff, but he saw something in McFarlane's work, and then it became, and it turned out, really, really well. And he made him look like a genius. And everybody else, all the rest of us look like dopes for not getting it. But, ultimately, what does Todd care, man? He's laughing all the way to the bank. And I don't like to criticize other artists because I don't want to make it seem like I'm being petty or, sour grapes. But, talking about critiquing art, I was just being honest. But the moral of the story is there is a way to do wonkiness, for lack of a better word, and a way not to. And if you can master the art of having a wonky style that works, you're writing your own ticket. But see, I never saw stuff that way. Like I said, I've always been such a traditionalist. I never think outside the box. I have to make myself, And in all fairness, to me, Vic, I didn't rip off Spawn. I created this character in 95, 96. So there wasn't as far as I know, there wasn't a Western Spawn at that point. There was a medieval Spawn. But I'm sure I was influenced by McFarlane's, his like mile-long capes and his, the stuff he did that was really, really designy and cool. I mean, really what Mike and I are talking about. I think I can't speak for Mike, but I can speak for me as the just figure work. Wasn't what we'd consider traditionally good, but again, it worked for him. But he did have a great design sense, and came up with some exaggeration, some concepts that were just like, I never would have thought to do it because it's so outrageous. You would think, I can't draw somebody with a, Batman with a cape that's a mile long, because you're thinking, well, it's going to get caught on something, instead of thinking this comic books, it's not going to get caught on something unless I make it get caught on something. And it's all about visual appeal and being interesting and being unusual. And McFarlane certainly understood that and got that. He found his audience, and it was a big audience. Yeah, and it showed. I mean, look at, we all like steal like the extreme close up. We're all steal that stuff now. Where no one else was trying to do that stuff or would have tried to do that. Randy Hill is out the door and start grilling. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. There's some truth to that. I mean, because my Wraith of God was originally, and I've said most of you guys know this, but I'll repeat it just for the sake of the conversation. That was originally a Western Ghost Rider story for Marvel, and they weren't interested. So, which who would have thought a Western would sell, right? So, but I really liked the story and I liked the character, and I thought, well, if they don't want it, why don't I just change it and make it into something that is now mine? And then maybe I can do something at someday. And so here we are. But yeah, it was originally based on the Western Ghost Rider, which of course wasn't a Marvel creation at all. It was Magazine Enterprises back in the 50s. Where you had Frazetta doing some covers, and Dick Ayers did the art on the inside. But it's amazing how many, you come up with a concept, you think, oh, wow, this is really cool. This is really original. And then 5 other guys have come up with the same thing. You know what I mean? It's, it's a good thing that not everybody is, motivated to self-publish, because, a lot of ideas that, many of us have had, somebody else already had, at least similarly enough that you probably couldn't get away with it if they ever published it. And that's my dog. I think Shelly's down there making my son's birthday cake. That's what she's doing. I do the cooking, but I'm not a big but because I have to follow instructions, and I hate following instructions. It's kind of like to do. Yeah, there's nothing better than monster toys. I'm really trying not to put the cart in front of the horse at this point. There's you get excited and there's a million things I want to do, right? I really want to make a Wraith of God statue. But I know that's an expensive endeavor. And I mean, obviously Ethan has showed us how expensive toys are. Holy smokes. And really what I've had is one successful campaign. So I have to string some together where I've got enough momentum and enough brand recognition that I can branch off and do some stuff like that. And so that's the hope, right? Is that you just continue to grow these concepts into merchandising and things like that. And then suddenly now not everybody has to, Spider-Man or nothing. Now your character, or, in this case, my character, or characters become part of the cultural lexicon, and people are, then you have enough people that would actually buy something like that to support it and actually make it happen. But it's tough to do stuff in baby steps when you're all excited about something, and which I am, and the possibilities of the different things that I'm trying to do. But I've got to just, I got to do it one step at a time and really make sure that there's a foundation there. I've just been involved with too many comic companies that, and it's kind of silly to call what I'm doing a comic company since I'm pretty much the only employee, and Shelley is my PR person. But it's, I've been involved with too many companies that have just tried to expand too quickly and they end up imploding on themselves. And it always happens. You've got to be patient enough to establish certain characters and, so that people go into a store, someone talks about, mentions Wraith of God. Most of the people are going, oh yeah, I heard about that, It's kind of like taking the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle approach, right? You sort of establish them as something and then just continue to expand them. I mean, of course, if someone came up to me and said, hey, we want to do a TV show of Wraith of God, which I think would actually be a really good TV show. Or I should say it's set up that it would work as a television show pretty well. And, if someone came and, then they would you'd have instant huge recognition to the character, which would open the doors for a lot of things, like what you see with The Walking Dead, which probably no one, I shouldn't say no one, but a lot of people weren't all that familiar with as a property until it got the television show, and then it became this huge thing, right? And you never know if that's going to happen or not. It might, one of us, couple of us might get lucky, it might not. So then the only other way to do it is to, keep pumping it up on social media, keep pumping it up on YouTube videos, and keep putting out quality product so that eventually it catches on. But bankrupting yourself, trying to go too quickly, is not a good way to create and establish a lasting brand. That's for sure. But I do want to do stuff. But if this next campaign does, as well as I hope it does, despite the sucky economy we're in right now, I'll probably be talking to a sculptor about doing a statue or something. So I think that would be really cool. And although it's high end, there's hardcore statue collectors out there, and so you don't need a ton of people to buy the statue, just enough to make it worthwhile. It's kind of a limited edition kind of thing. But I am at this point looking at all possibilities and do the ones I can as I can do them, which is sort of overstating the obvious again. I am. Now, here's the interesting thing about that question, about the eraser. This is a more textured paper rather than a coated slick paper. The coated slick paper doesn't really absorb the ink. It kind of sits and dries on top of the paper, on top of the coating. So when you erase, it more than it does tend to take the ink off with it and gray it down quite a bit. When you use a little bit rougher stock, that ink soaks into the paper and it doesn't come off as much. I use little pink erasers that sit on the top of your pencils to erase around the finer details. And then I just have one of those white, rubber erasers and to erase over the larger sections. I know some people use those gum erasers. What are they called? The real soft, and have some good results with that. But there's going to be inevitable touch up. There's no getting around it. You're always going to take some ink off. Look at there. There's Mike helping me out. We might have to have a conversation, Mike, not too distant future. Hey, Scott Gunther, look at this. Have you really been live for 2 hours now? Marathon stream. I know. Well, I start talking and start drawing, and what the heck, man. 2.5 hours. Gee, Christmas. And I got my largest audience right now, so I can't stop now. Well, I figure I'm going to work anyway, right? So might as well. Might as well do it live. Because I've noticed what, a lot of you guys do, and I'm starting to do it myself, is you find a YouTube stream and you just turn it on while you're working, because there's nothing good on TV, or there's, maybe nothing on the radio or whatever that you want to listen to. And it's a great way to sort of, if you're working or whatever you're doing, kind of listen to it. I used to think that these were, draw streams were kind of boring. I mean, who'd want to watch that? But that's a trick. You got to keep talking the whole time. Thank God I can talk. Never say anything, but I can talk. So you stay long enough on the air long enough, and Brian suddenly old shows up. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining. Vic, you say the weirdest things. I have the hardest time keeping up with your train of thought. Aaron, say you really want a 2014 Jaguar convertible. I think Mike is trying to get you to go with him. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. See, right there. I'm listening and knocking out a page too. So it's like we've created this giant studio environment. We're all working on our projects. There you go. Perfect for chill background for folding laundry or eating cake. Cake. There you go, Chris. Thank you so much. And you're right. It is there. But see, that's the one thing it's hard for me to gauge because I'm an artist. So I will sit there and watch like a video on some guy doing painting technique, right? Which, for some people is like paint drying, and I'll find it just super interesting. But then other people really kind of like dig the process and like I mean, I can't even imagine if I had this kind of access to, artists when I was younger. Not that, there are probably not a lot of 12-year-olds in the audience right now, but, if I could have, if Wrightson was live streaming while he was working on Frankenstein, can you imagine watching that? Not comparing what I'm doing to, Wrightson's Frankenstein, but I'm just saying, or Neil Adams working on a Batman comic. That would have just been incredible. But I guess better late than never. Because when this book comes out, you can say, you know what? I watched him work on that. I watched him make that. And I think there's something just inherently cool about that. Because it's hard to, to do any real significant drawing like at a convention, right? You can do sketches and stuff, and people can watch you while you do it. But you're not going to probably do, finished work like this because it's much easier on a drafting table than it is on your lap. I can tell you that. And that's why I don't do a lot of penciling on these live streams, because there's so much. It's hard for me to think and process, what I'm trying to do in the drawing stage while I'm talking. And then you go through so many different stages sometimes of penciling that it's like, you don't want to let everybody know how many times you actually throw stuff away, right? And so it's much easier to kind of, when all the heavy lifting is done creatively, to kind of go in and just ink live and be able to talk about what you're doing. Which reminds me, I wanted to show you guys kind of the process I went through to get to this stage. If I can find the layouts, I know they're around here someplace. Here we go. Okay, so, I mean, this isn't exactly what I'm working on here, but if you look at the, this is originally going to be a cover concept. And I just didn't feel right. And then I sort of, I've got H's for Heretic. He's one of the guys that watches us. Randy Howell's one of them. Cinnamon. Why is that on there? I must be taking notes about something. Anyway, so then I came up with this kind of concept here for the wraparound cover, right? Just kind of concept here. And before I finally settled on it. But now you look at what I did here in blue line, right? This is the elephant dude. And, oops. I've got one more if I can find it. It's actually more telling. Bear with me here. I've got that dumb thing around here someplace. Oh, duh, it's right here. Okay. Okay, so check this out. Okay, this was the original. Oops. Okay. So I wasn't. Well, okay. Number one, I didn't want the zombie hand reaching for Garbage Man's crotch, so that was probably not the best choice there. And then I had this concept where I had Eon Chance back here sort of holding this whole battle in his hand, right? But then I felt like these are the main guys, and they were too small, right? So then I thought, well, okay, how can I adjust that? So I started working on different figures for the elephant dude, and finally came up with this. Was pretty much what I ended up using, where I felt like, they were big enough, and I could still get the eyes of Eon Chance back up here, and still get across the same message without these guys being too small. So I mean, that's kind of the gymnastics I went through, if you will, to get to the point of what I'm doing here. And, so I'm always a little nervous about drawing like, doing a commission or a sketch is one thing, because you're just dealing with a figure generally. But I'm always very apprehensive. Let me try that again. Apprehensive, not apprehensive, but about trying to do finished work on a live stream, or finished penciling from scratch on a live stream, because I just change my mind so much as I'm going along. And you could spend 2 hours working on something and not progressed an inch, because you keep throwing stuff away, which was the case for this cover. Brian says, I checked out that comic shop in Vancouver you recommended a while back. Ended up walking out with a full short box and 3 empty ones to help reduce my piles. There you go. Yeah, he's referring to I Like Comics in Vancouver, Washington, which is a terrific store run by Chris. Chris Simons. So I highly recommend that if you're in this area. Apprehensive. There it is. See, Lewis comes in late and he wants to have to explain everything. This is the cover B option to the Wraith of God Blood Hunters campaign, which it hasn't opened yet, so you're not missing anything. I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve, and it's put together like an old style Tales of Suspense Marvel comic, where you're going to have Wraith of God Blood Hunters across the top here, featuring Garbage Man and the nightclub. So basically it's a Wraith of God lead story with these two as backup stories. So yeah, this is the cover B. The cover A is the wraparound cover that I've been working on and showing on social media and so forth. Hey, GJ Martinez, I don't know if you just got here. Do you realize I'm putting GJ Martinez's, I think, favorite character is Eon Chance. He really wants to see more of Eon Chance, and you know what? He's going to be in this. So there you go. Well, this is designed for us old guys, Paul, that appreciate the. And I have to admit, I'm not old enough that I was buying comics when this style came out. These Tales of Suspense, like 1966. I was like 2 years old, but I did buy them in retrospectively in the 70s when I started collecting comics. This is a character called, you have to wait and see. But yeah, he's an elephant dude. Oh, thanks, Geek. Appreciate it. Art Tabera remembers when they came out. It's not getting that big, no. It's originally going to, the page count is going to be listed at 64 plus pages. So the Wraith of God story will be 30 some pages. The Garbage Man story, I think, is 16 pages. And then the Nightclub story, I haven't, is just in a very plot form. So I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but it'll be around, 20 pages. The Garbage Man story I've had for quite some time because it was originally going to be part of the Garbage Man stories that I was doing for DC and opted not to use it at the last minute. I don't know why. It was originally just a 10-page story. Actually, that's why I didn't use it, because I didn't have enough pages to do the story the way I wanted to. So right now it's about, I can't remember, it's either 16 or 18 pages, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then we could end up with 15 pages of Kit Carter if we hit 100K, and that'll push the book up to 79 pages worth of story, which is exactly what the Wraith of God graphic novel is, which means it would end up being with the title page and all that extra stuff, be probably about 84 pages again. Thank you, GJ. Appreciate that, man. When were people polled? Oh, I get it. It's another bad joke. People were polled on whether or not they liked the South Dakota, but results were split down the middle. Oh. You, Nomad Damon, you are trying hard, man, and I appreciate the effort. Yeah, I do. Actually, in the last campaign, there's a painting that is a promo for Blood Hunters. You get as a freebie, as a stretch goal, a little print. It was a painting. Yeah, I do. I've got. I did it in the last Emerald City Comic-Con book, charity book for. That they do. I did a painting in that, and it's actually the first page in the book. That was 3 years ago now. But I don't do it a lot because I'm usually doing this type of stuff. But I do it when I can, and I do really enjoy it. I'm not great at it because I don't spend enough time working on it, but I aspire someday to. I always talk myself out of it because cleanup is such a pain in the butt. Getting set up and figuring out your palette and everything else. I like to sit down and go. And in painting, you really got to sort of plan out what you're doing if you're going to be successful. And that's the part that I hate, is the planning. But I guess it's no different than, doing a bunch of roughs for covers and things like that. I'm just not as confident as I am with painting as I am with black and white. And so it's always a little bit harder to talk myself into starting a painting. But then once I do, it's like I just become obsessed with it until I get it done. Love the Kit Carter serial. I'd watch each 10-minute installment every week with art before the Saturday double features for 10 cents. Our dog's going to go ballistic. Actually, a lot of times the dogs, they get scared and hide with all that, fireworks going off, and they don't bark. They just kind of hide. So I'm hoping that he chooses the hiding rather than the barking. GJ Martinez says, can't wait to learn more about the Wraith and Eon Chance. I had the chance to read your Garbage Man book that I bought from Amazon, my reading copy, and it was very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Oh, I know they are, Geek. That's on me. The problem with Kit Carter is the format. I had a really hard time. So you have to understand that the Kit Carter the whole thing was a joke to begin with, and I really had no story or anything behind it. It was just a series of prints, kind of celebrating the corniness of 50s sci-fi movies, right, and serials. And but then it really caught on, and people were like, everybody was constantly asking me, oh my gosh, is this a character? Are you doing stories? When are you gonna, and I didn't really have any idea or concept for the stories. So I thought, well, I better start developing them. And I couldn't really take it seriously in the sense that I wanted to do, like as a dramatic character, because it's a parody character. So I started writing humor scripts, which are fine, because if you read Power Cubed, that's a humor book, but it's also, it plays as a straight adventure as well, but with some pretty wacky humor in it. And Kit Carter is, her sidekick's a monkey, for crying out loud, so it's, I had a really hard time figuring out what I wanted to do with the character. And it finally dawned on me. I was like, well, because I did write a script, but I felt it was getting too serious. I couldn't keep up because I was doing, what you'd want to do in a regular script is, character development and things like that. And then things started getting serious. Who is this character? Why is she the way she is? That kind of thing. You're like, wait a minute, I'm getting way off track from what the whole point of this was. So it didn't feel like I was, doing the character right. And so it dawned on me that, try doing this as a newspaper strip, like a Sunday strip, And so I started writing episodes, what I called episodes of that, which each strip, each daily strip or Sunday strip, if you will, had a punchline, had a payoff. But it was a continuation of a larger narrative. And so I started doing that, and it really started working. I really liked it. And so that's what I started doing. Um, but actually putting it in a book, a comic book format, excuse me, a narrative like I'm doing here, I don't know. I don't know if it would work the way I want it to. So we'll see. That's why I haven't really put anything out significantly of the character. But I will, if we hit the stretch goal, I'll put out all the Sunday strips, and I've only done 8 of them, so I need to do about 7 more to wrap up this particular storyline. But it's all just goofy fun. It's not, she's never. It's all about the joke. It's not so much about the adventure. So it works better as a newspaper strip. But I'm going to have to adapt the character to fit a more traditional comic book style. And until I do that to the way that it satisfies me, I'm going to keep her as in a background type character. Although I know there's a lot of people that want to see me do a Kid Carter book, and I'm sure it would probably do well, but I got to be, like I said, it's got to be something that is working for me and that I'm comfortable with. So, and it doesn't really fit in to the Little Prestiverse at all, because it's just a ridiculous humor book. It's not, you couldn't cross her over with any of these characters, because these are all played straight. And she might be able to cross over with Power Cubed, because Power Cubed could potentially work with these other characters, because it sort of straddles a line between humor and adventure, where Kid Carter is pure humor. But I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just saying I'm not quite ready to do it in that format. Well, gang, it's 3:20. I probably should call this a day, because I have to take my daughter here to work pretty soon. Yeah, it's that book is just an inspiration to me. I highly recommend it. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, but it's even zanier than that. I mean, it's completely irreverent, and I know that. Well, maybe not. That might be a way to approach it. No, he's not native to Earth. Well, it has proven to me to be tough so far, and that's the problem. But I think the more I do the strips and the more comfortable I get with the character and what I want to do with the character, then it'll be easier. I know. She does not want to drive. I mean, she fights it like crazy. So. Paul's been traveling, probably. I don't know if she has or not. I don't think so. Maybe she's. I don't know. I'm juggling so many things right now, Lewis. I can't remember. Stuff we talked about 3 days ago. But anyway, there you have it. So that gives you a pretty good preview, and I will post this when it's completely done, of what this cover looks like when it's in black and white, and then of course after it's colored. That's true. Woo! Amsterdam to Budapest. Wow. See, when you're a high roller like Paul and a cutting edge engineer, that's what you get to do. Let me do this so I can properly say goodbye to all of you. Hey, thanks for joining me, man. It was almost 3 hours. I thought I was going to go for an hour and a half, but it was good conversation, good questions. nice chat. Got some work done and all kind of worked out for everybody, I hope. You guys have a great 4th of July. And let me tell everybody, I apologize, but Shelly and I will not be doing our show tomorrow because we'll be celebrating my son's birthday. And so we'll be busy all through the day and evening and won't be around to do the show. But so this is kind of my makeup for it. So, but we'll be back next week for sure. And as far as I know, I'll be holding copies of Wraith of God in my hands on the next show. So that's pretty exciting. And we'll be shipping those out. Seriously, the day I get them, they're going to start sending them out because I know you guys have been waiting for them. And I want to get them out to you as fast as possible. Oh, hey, there's Shelly right there. Anyway, guys, I couldn't do this if you weren't out there supporting the whole effort, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys supporting the Wraith of God campaign and the future ones, and for supporting this channel. And speaking of supporting this channel, please remember to like and subscribe. Get in there, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. We need to grow this channel. We've been kind of stagnant for a while. So there you have it. That's probably why, because I have insight like that. I say stuff like that, and you guys go, wow, how can I possibly miss this show? But anyway, so we appreciate, when I say we, I mean Shelly and I, of course. We appreciate you guys' support, being with us, holding our hand through all of this, and backing us. And enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Don't blow your hand off, please. For the love of God, don't blow your hand off with fireworks. And enjoy your week coming up. And I'll be popping in throughout the week with updates and drawing. And so keep your eyes open for that. And we'll see you guys. Take care.